Hello and welcome to the Mum Boss Method podcast. I'm Chrissy, I'm the Mum Boss, and thank you very much for coming back and listening. I want to talk to you today about goals, about identity, about motivation. That was Henry having a little groan then in the background. And I'm sharing this off the back of a couple of things actually. So, I've done my check-ins today, and a couple of um, my clients have talked about struggling to motivate themselves in the last couple of weeks. And, that's something that I hear time and time again, because I speak to ladies that aren't my clients each and every day. And I speak to my clients every day. Now, most of my clients really know not to rely on motivation, but hey, we all have some of these more dippy days, don't we? And it really got me thinking because I'm just coming back off of my weekend where I travelled up to Manchester and I had my photo shoot that I have been prepping for the last 16 weeks. And in one of my client check-ins today, one of the things that I said to one of my clients that had been having a bit of a difficult week was that, one of the things I thought when I kind of said yes to this photo shoot, bearing in mind it was probably about the 8th of January that I said yes to it. Um, I'd come off of last year to 2024 was such a performance-based year for me. I ran a half marathon in June. I did a battle cancer competition in September. I did high rocks in November. It was everything last year was about performance and getting me through those events. And then my brother got married in October, and so that was a little bit of like making sure I felt ready for that, for the wedding and to be a bridesmaid and stuff. But the majority of last year, I had really big performance goals to focus on, and then, a little bit of an aesthetic goal to make sure I felt good in that bridesmaid's dress. And when I came into this year, I was just thinking, oh, well, I just, I don't want to do anything performance. I definitely didn't want to do any more half marathons. I think I'd scared myself out of high rocks because whilst I completed it and I was really proud of myself, I didn't absolutely love it. Um, and so I thought I just want to tighten up a little bit, really look like I train and just that'll be good. And then my coach kind of put this thing in the WhatsApp chat, anyone fancy a photo shoot? And I just put my hand up and I realized that it's for me, I need something to aim for. I need to aim for something that is giving me focus. And I thought that this would be a really good thing for us to talk about today, especially knowing that for you, you possibly say, I just can't find the motivation. I just can't seem to, I know what I need to do. I just can't seem to do it. Because today, what we're going to talk about are the real drivers of motivation. And, like I say, coming off the back of 16 weeks of prepping for this photo shoot, which was a hustle. It was about discipline. At times, it was really testing to my willpower. But you know what? The motivation doesn't come from that hustle from the discipline or from willpower. It came from, for me, from my brain, from my identity, and how I set the goals that I set for myself. So I thought I would talk you through this and share with you some examples and science behind all of it, because I think that it's really useful to know how to do that. And then at the end, I'll talk a little bit about how I'm taking this forward, knowing what I know about this, about myself, into kind of the next phase for me, because it's going to be a good year before I do anything like another photo shoot for sure. And I'm definitely not planning on any running or high rocks or anything like that for the rest of this year. So I need to make sure that I keep myself motivated as well. Um, so firstly, I want to talk about why motivation isn't reliable. And the first thing I want to tell you is that motivation is actually an emotion, not a strategy. So often we tell ourselves, I just need to keep myself motivated. Well, that's not a strategy. That's not a plan. Keeping yourself motivated, I just need to be more motivated, is not a plan. It's not a reliable plan. It's actually an emotion. Getting up and feeling unmotivated is an emotion. Getting up and feeling motivated is an emotion. And just like mood, energy, that motivation fluctuates. It is impossible to feel motivated every single day. For the last 16 weeks, I did not feel motivated every single day. And I say this often in my content to my clients. Relying on motivation is like relying on sunshine in the UK. It's like relying on having a hot summer in the UK. We can't do that. Okay. So you can't, that's the first thing to know, is that motivation, just telling yourself, I'm going to be motivated this time, that's not a strategy. That's not a plan. And some of the science behind this, and I've talked about these on podcasts before, but we have a dopamine loop, right? So we get dopamine not from actually achieving the goals, but from the pursuit of achieving those goals, from the journey. Yes, on Saturday when I had my pictures taken and I felt awesome, I was, full of dopamine and I felt like I felt high. It was great. But I was also getting dopamine hits from the feedback I was getting on my progress pictures, on seeing my measurements come down, on seeing changes in my body over the last 16 weeks, of being amazed at what the body could do. Your brain rewards progress, even the tiny, weeny little steps. So, having known that, when you know that it's not actually achieving the goal that is really going to make you feel great. It's the progress, it's the tiny little steps as you go through it. Think about what you can do to keep yourself going through that journey. Setting small little milestones for yourself. Why do you think in my coaching programs I have check-ins for my clients? Why do you think I ask them to take their measurements, to take their pictures, to take, even weight, to weigh themselves? Because those measurements, those tiny bits of progress, they are where you can make celebrations. They're where you can get that dopamine hit. But what I would love you to think about is, instead of constantly chasing that motivation, how can you build momentum? How can you start small and then stack those wins on top of each other? Things that I did over the last 16 weeks that did that for me. It was seeing my progression in the gym. So one of the things that I really wanted to change about my body was, firstly, my shoulders, and secondly, my legs. So I've shared this in the past that, for the longest time in my adult life, I really didn't like my legs. And that changed a lot in the last 5 years, because I knew I could see how strong they were. But something that I really wanted to do was to get lean on my legs so that I could see muscle definition. And if you've been listening to me for any amount of time, you will know you cannot spot reduce where body fat is lost from. Like, the body will take where the body wants to take from. But what I could do was manipulate my training so that I grew certain parts of my legs whilst losing body fat, to enable me to start seeing that definition. So one of the first things I did was learn how to do a leg press differently. And I won't explain it because, You kind of need to be there to understand it. But I learned to do a leg press in a different way. And it meant going down and really, really dropping the weight. And it was really uncomfortable because my legs were like wide. It was really like tough on my hips. But as I learned how to do that and I got stronger and stronger doing it, I could see that I was getting stronger and able to lift more weights doing it. And that was progress for me. So finding and building momentum in other places and not just in like in the end goal, and also not just in scale weight if weight loss, fat loss is your goal. Okay. So I said to you at the beginning, and I've been talking a lot about this with my clients as well, that identity plays a massive, massive part in your success and in your goals. And it's really, really important to think about the identity of the person that you are and what you're creating. So instead of I want to lose weight or I want to lose body fat, I want you to think about changing that to I'm becoming a woman who takes care of her body or something along those lines. Because let's say you go through a little bit of a plateau phase with your fat loss and you're not losing body fat anymore, you can then find it really demotivating. Ooh, my computer's making a lot of noise today. You can find it really demotivating if you don't see that change on the scales or the change on measurements. So actually what you might do, and I had this conversation with a client this morning who, she said that she wasn't seeing any movement anywhere, and that, she felt like giving up. I actually pointed out to her where there was movement, and I could definitely see changes in her pictures. But you might give up if you don't see those change on the scales or the change on the tape measure because you have said your goal is I want to lose weight. And that's just a moment in time goal. I had said I wanted to try and be a specific weight for the photo shoot, and I made it. I made it by 0.1 of a kilogram. When I weighed myself on Friday, I was below that weight by 0.1 of a kilogram. Could you have been able to tell in my pictures if I was zero point 0.2 of a kilogram heavier? No, you wouldn't have been able to. And that's why having a weight loss goal, like a goal weight, is really, really difficult to or problematic to have. So rather than saying, I want to lose weight, we want to think about how you can weave in your identity into that statement. So you could say, I'm becoming a woman who takes care of her body. Because then when you don't see a drop on the scales this week, it can really help you to not hit the F it button, because actually if you are moving into the identity and you are taking the actions that create the identity of becoming a woman who takes care of her body, hitting that button is not in alignment with that identity. That's in alignment with someone who's throwing a strop because they haven't hit their goal weight or they haven't lost weight on the scales this week. So goals are outcomes. They're an end result. But your identity is the person who you believe you are. So if you don't believe you're a fit person, you'll self-sabotage even with the best plan. So if self-sabotage is something that you are constantly doing, I want you to really think about what you believe in yourself, what you believe about yourself. Do you believe that you're never going to be in a body that you truly feel confident in because you never have before and you've always managed to mess it up? In which case, you don't believe in that identity you're creating in yourself. So you will self-sabotage, even with the best plan, even if you're not relying on motivation. And this is called the self-identity loop because we act in alignment with who we believe we are. So behavior change will stick when it's aligned with identity, not just outcome. So if I had weighed myself on Friday, I mean, not that I could have done anything about it Friday, but if I'd weighed myself Friday and I hadn't got below the goal weight that I set for myself with the shoot, would, I could have really easily just gone and dived first into a brownie, but I didn't because I believe I have the identity. I've created an identity for myself where I am a fit, healthy person who takes care of her body and fuels it well. And that's why behavior change sticks. We went out for dinner yesterday. I had a really quite an indulgent Sunday. And this was all part of the plan. Was I knew once the photo shoot was over, I would have a couple of indulgent days. And I had a nice scrambled egg and chicken, turkey bacon on a bagel for breakfast. Probably had it a little bit too late, if we're really honest, because um, yeah, I woke up late. And then I went out for lunch. And then because Tom and Charlie have obviously just supported me through this whole 16 weeks, we went out for dinner as well. And we went to a local curry house. And I got there and I just ordered tikka and salad because it does not align with the identity I've created for myself to order a massive curry, rice, a chapati, and a loads of sides, even when I'm not massively hungry, and just make myself feel awful. That's not who I am anymore. That was maybe who I was 10 years ago, but that's not who I am. That doesn't align with my identity. So I want you to ask yourself, who's the version of you that you want to become? Truly, who do you want to become? And and once you know that, I want you to start acting like her now. Don't wait. Don't wait until the scales say this. Don't wait until you can get a hold of this behavior. Start doing it now, even in the tiniest small ways that you can. Do it now. So let's think about then, if we know this about goals, that they're just outcomes, if we know that identity is so important, if we know that motivation is not reliable, and that actually momentum and celebrating the small wins is really important, how can you set goals that actually work? Now, I've given resources like this to my clients and to people that are non-clients. I've done this for years and years and years in corporate, where you've set smart goals, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. They're not bad, but they're not enough. And you fail your goals because they're too vague. So that might be lose weight or get healthy. You could lose 0.5 pound and you've lost weight. Get healthy, you could, I don't know, cut your drinking down to one night per week and you've got healthier if you were drinking 5 nights of the week. So we don't want them to be vague. You don't want them to be too big and without structure. You don't want them to be, just massive and feel overwhelming. And you don't want them to be disconnected from your values. And this is huge. This is absolutely huge in the work that I do with my clients. We regularly return to our values. And that's because your values drive your life. One of the coming back off of the photo shoot, I've spoken to my coach today and we've reset all my targets and we've reset my goals. Now, one of my targets is that we put the oat milk latte back into my food diary for every day. Now, that's because that is like that's one indulgence that I absolutely adore every day. and it's important for me to have. Oat milk lattes are not really a value though. But a value for me is, eating the same meals that my family eat. And on the whole, I have to say I've broadly done that. Like, so that's not a value, Chrissy. Let me be clear. A, a value of mine is family. And part of that is eating together and sharing a meal together and eating the same food at the table as many times as possible during the week. Now, it's not to say that we didn't do that. I haven't had to eat completely different food to the boys for the last 16 weeks, but some dinners I did have to tweak, and some dinners I had to take off the menu. Something we love is Marry Me Chicken, and we've not had that. We're having it at the weekend. We've not had that for a while because it just didn't fit into where I was going. So to then not be able to have meals like that we all really enjoyed, that does not sit with my values. So if you're setting yourself a goal that means you are moving so far away from what is important to you, it is no wonder you are not going to be able to stick to that goal. What we want to do then is move away from these SMART goals that are really quite linear and rigid and outcome based, and we want to shift into identity based goals. So that might be, I'm someone who goes out for a walk every day. One of my clients, Leslie, she said last week that, I think it was last week, my weeks are mixing into each other, but she had said that one of the things she's not done is on the days that she swims, she doesn't push herself to get her 10,000 steps a day because she swum. And something that she said last week was, the saying "you get out what you put in," it's really resonated with me. And so I'm really going to push myself that even on the days that I swim, I'm going to try and get more steps. I'm going to try and work up to my 10,000 steps because I want to be someone who walks every day. It's an identity-based goal. I'm someone who preps nourishing food because I deserve to feel good. There are other things that you could connect to that. I'm someone who preps my meals because I don't want to waste money on rubbish in the supermarket. I'm someone who preps my food the night before because I want to feel organized and in control, and I don't want to be a stressed person. This is using the habit loop, and one of the books that the book that we're reading in book club at the moment is with revisiting Atomic Habits by James Clear. I've read that before. Some of the other ladies have as well. But what we want to create here is a cue, a routine, and a reward. And that means that we pair our new habits with existing ones. So for me, to become a person who preps their food the night before, as I'm cooking dinner, I'm also prepping tomorrow's breakfast and lunch. So I'm pairing my habit of prepping tomorrow's breakfast and lunch with my existing habit of cooking dinner. And the reward part of that is celebrating those small wins. So even now, when I've prepped my lunch and my breakfast for the next day, I will thank myself. Thank you, yesterday's me, for prepping this lunch. So I literally had my lunch in 3 minutes today. I just had to chuck some chicken on it. So shifting to those identity based goals, if you are stuck at the moment, say your goal is to lose weight, I want you to think about, well, how can we make that goal a more identity-based goal rather than just lose weight, which can be vague or too big or feel too overwhelming. So what are the habits connected with you losing weight? I'm someone who exercises 3 to 4 times a week. I'm someone that walks every day. I'm someone that prioritizes protein, fruit, and veg in her meals every day. I'm someone, if you're not particularly organized, I'm someone that prepares and organizes herself for the week ahead. I'm someone that values living as easy a life as possible. All of these things. How can we create these statements? My dog's going to make a noise because my child has just got in. No, he didn't. How can we make these statements and connect them to our new identity-based goals? Okay, so in kind of summary of this, actually, before I summarize, so I wanted to talk to you about how I'm taking this forward. So, like I said at the beginning, one of the biggest drivers for me post photo shoot and before the photo shoot were that I really wanted to be able to see muscle definition in my legs. And, this is a really personal thing. And I'm almost going into explaining why it might sound a little bit vain, but I'm going to stop there. It's just what I wanted to do, and it's what I achieved. And I don't want to lose that. So for me, the way of focusing myself going forward after the photo shoot, when I don't have this one date in mind, it's no longer about a goal weight. It's no longer about getting to a specific date, but my goal is to maintain where I am, my current physique, without needing to do 7 days of cardio and drop my calories really low. So for the next couple of weeks, that's going to be playing around with my food and my exercise to get it to the right level. And the goal is that I am a person who has defined leg muscles. So there are habits that I need to be doing that are going to going to get me there. And when it comes to the 31st of December 2025, I'd like to be able to say that there's not a huge amount of difference between a picture that I might have taken on that day and a picture I had taken this last Saturday. So let's reframe your journey, right? You don't need more motivation. What you need is a clear identity and a reason that means something. So, yes, for me, massively, I do what I do for my health and for my longevity and for independence. In a shorter term, this really means something to me in terms of like maintaining where I've got to at the moment, because I'm bloody proud of where I got to. And I actually made changes to part of my body that I never thought I would be able to. And that's really important to me, and holding on to how proud and how confident and how amazing I felt on Saturday is really important. So you need that clear identity, you need a reason that means something, and you need a system that keeps you going when your motivation dips, because it will. It will dip. That's normal. Remember that every time you act in alignment with who you want to become, you cast a vote for her. You cast a vote for your future self. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep on voting. And sometimes that vote is to say, no, thank you, I've had enough crisps, or no, thank you, I'm not drinking. So I would love to hear from you what your new identity statement is. What is the thing that is going to drive you to keep going? And if you want my support to help you reach your goals, message me the word goals and let's talk. I'd love to help you. Okay, that's everything from me. Thank you very much for listening. Have a lovely evening, afternoon, morning, whatever day it is, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.